Friends, I am flabbergasted, bewildered, downright hoodwinked, confused, betrayed, lost, and 100% completely stunned as to the events that unfolded today during the quarterfinals at IEM Dallas 2024. Now, I was not shocked to see Vitality triumph over Heroic in 2-0 fashion and advance to the semifinals against Team Spirit. That was expected. I did not anticipate Heroic to fall apart in the way that they did, but I did not expect them to hold up against Vitality in a 3-game series. I am, however, completely schmeckeldorfed that GStew, with their Stewie 2K stand-in, just walked up and slapped Faze right in the mouth at one of the most disrespectful upsets that I have ever seen. Something I've been saying a lot lately, because this G2 team keeps upsetting top 5 teams in the world with a stand-in. And now, they have a semifinal berth against an unproven South American team also on an insane run, which pretty much means that G2 have an extremely good shot of making their first finals of the year with a stand-in. The ESL scriptwriters have been huffing paint chips because no one could have predicted this outcome coming into this tournament. So let's talk about the games, figure out where everything went wrong or right in the current timeline to lead us here, and prep for the semifinals tomorrow. But before we do that, make sure you guys take a second, leave a like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel to help my sanity, as recapping these tournaments is currently lining me up for a trip to the mental asylum, so I might as well get something out of it. While you're down there, consider becoming a channel member. For $5 a month, you can support me directly in what we do here, gain access to exclusive emblems, emotes, regular videos the night before they go live for everybody else, and a shout out at the end of every video as well. And lastly, check me out on Twitch, twitch.tv/LionHeartZ1337. I stream Sunday through Friday, 8:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll be live tonight, talking about all the insanity that happened today while we play some Counter-Strike. Come hang out, and let's get started with the shenanigans. The recap. We open up the Dallas playoffs with Vitality taking on Heroic. And going into this, I gave Heroic an even money shot of winning this series. We've seen very inconsistent play from Vitality throughout this event, and Heroic have looked very steady, very solid, and TeSeS, at this point, was the leading player for the tournament, having an incredible solo performance, backed up by some great support from his teammates. Heroic looked very good, despite the fact that Nikodas is not going to be their permanent fifth and is leaving after this event. They're playing with house money, there's nothing to lose for them in this tournament, and that can sometimes bolster them into a random great performance like we were seeing so far. But the reality is, and this was touched on the desk, multiple players, including TeSeS on Heroic, have a history of disappearing deep into tournaments, especially when the stage is bright against top 10 opponents. TeSeS usually underperforms his usual numbers against those kinds of opponents in playout situations. NearhTZ as well notoriously goes missing in these situations. And we roll up here against Vitality, and what happens? Pretty much everyone on Heroic has their worst games of the tournament, except for Shush. Which, by the way, quick side note, in one of my previous recaps, I referred to as Shush as the in-game leader for Heroic. Listen, I was doing a lot of those recaps very late at night, and Shush and Shuhi look very similar when you are borderline delirious making YouTube videos, so your brain makes connections that aren't there. Just wanted to correct that. But again, outside of Shush, no one on Heroic performed at all. TeSeS went from being, again, the best player in the tournament to having a truly wretched series with a .74 rating, going 19 for 31, and nobody else really doing anything better. We open up on Nuke, and frankly this is a good Heroic map, so I gave them a great shot of taking this to establish an early series lead. However, Vitality were bolstered by an absolute throwback performance from their in-game leader, Apex. If you're newer to the scene and you aren't familiar with Apex's game prior to him becoming the in-game leader of Vitality, you have to remember, Apex at one point was considered the best entry fragger to ever play CSGO. He was an absolute menace and integral to some of the best French lineups we've ever seen. And it was cool just to see a little slice of that former Apex ability, the way he was balancing, absolutely recklessly pushing for map control and being able to find picks no matter what. It really was a throwback game, and it was awesome to watch. Outside of that, I felt like this game was actually pretty standard from both sides. There wasn't anything really insane done here. Vitality was just better at taking picks and winning rounds straight up. The strats weren't complicated. They would take some outside control, or maybe they would push ramp, or they would push upper, and whatever they did on the T side, Heroic didn't really have a good enough answer. And conversely, when Vitality was opened up on their CT side, the Heroic strats were falling flat. Vitality ran an early 5-0 lead before Heroic could even get on the board. And they did well to equalize to a 7-5 half and keep it competitive, but their CT defense just was not quality whatsoever. Vitality straight up outdueled them to win the second half. And unfortunately, just like you shouldn't invade Russia in winter, the same goes for challenging a French team on Dust 2, because Vitality rocked up and kicked the door closed in Heroic's face, a 13-2 stomp, where Heroic literally couldn't do anything. Only 2 rounds on their opening CT half for their elimination game efforts, Heroic simply fell apart when the lights were brightest. However, this roster I think is looking up. Dexter is definitely going to be a great fit over Nikodas. I don't expect this to weigh too heavily on their shoulders as we're approaching the player break anyway. Heroic, they've had an okay year so far, and I think they can really look to improve going forward post player break. For Vitality, they get to advance to a semifinals appearance against Team Spirit, where frankly, I think they're actually the underdogs in that matchup considering how Spirit have played thus far. But we'll talk more about the semifinals in a little bit. Let's move on to our other quarterfinals matchup, Faze Clan versus G2. If I had to summarize how I feel about this G2 Faze Clan set, is that it's very weird for like the first time since Kerrigan has come back to this Faze roster, watching him be the team that gets booed on stage. Kerrigan is famous for being able to pretty much win over any crowd he wants, and always bringing this great stage presence to every match that he's in, and Faze are like the most beneficial team I've seen in Counter-Strike in terms of the crowd boost. They elevate on stage when the crowd can boost them into rounds, and they play into it, they hype them up, they play into like this role of they're the champions, they're the team that's always backed by everybody. But we come here into Dallas, and G2 is America's team right now. They've been adopted by the American crowd off the backs of Stewie 2K standing in, and after so many upsets throughout their path to the quarterfinals. Everybody seems so invested in this story to see just how far G2 can push it under these weird circumstances, because they continue to produce surprisingly great Counter-Strike when they shouldn't be able to hold up without their true roster. I mean, we pull up Dust 2, the first map, and it's a 7-5 opening half, with Faze looking pretty strong on the CT side. G2 a little bit slow going, the T-side strat's not quite what we need, but they managed to keep it close, they keep things interesting, and then we rock up to the CT side defense for G2, and it suddenly becomes the m0NESY show. m0NESY goes absolutely nuclear in the second half, big play after big play, huge op picks, utterly unstoppable. And once m0NESY gets going, it's like everything clicks into place for this G2 roster. Hunter starts finding great impact, Nico right there with them. All the while, the crowd just backing this team more and more. And crowd factor is a thing. It can bolster how a team performs. I feel like G2 just got more and more comfortable the more they hit those plays. And what resulted was an absolute shutout CT defense. They held this Faze Clan roster, who have been arguably the best team in Counter-Strike this year, have made more finals than anybody else. They held this Faze Clan roster to one T-side round in the second half. G2! The inconsistent G2, the heavily criticized G2 did that, and go up with a 1-0 lead heading to Nuke, which Nuke is a traditionally strong map for Faze, so you think surely G2 are going to finally struggle here, but no, they have a shutout, absolute stomp game where Nico not only outcalls Kerrigan, but G2 straight up beats Faze on an individual level in every regard on Nuke, 13-2. Not even in the major against Na'Vi on Inferno have I seen this Faze roster take an ass whooping quite like this. It felt like m0NESY and Nico on the CT side could literally do no wrong. m0NESY could just op in the vents like it's a shotgun, no one's going to stop him. Nico could do whatever he wants on the outside, no one's going to stop him. And if you try and push inner, well, Hunter's there, Stewie's going to help him out. Like, it just didn't matter. Faze through every single set they possibly could, and at a certain point you have Kerrigan trying to force entries and get anything going, but it's not enough. Rain can't find any impact. Brokey, Rops, they're missing. Nobody's able to generate any positive momentum on the T side, and Faze Clan, a team that I always associate with just being able to overwhelm you on the individual level over simple strategies, suddenly was going one at a time. No team support, no flashes, bad trades, simple strats, 4 saves, and all of a sudden they're on the back foot. They only win 2 rounds on their T half, and Faze are typically a great T-side Nuke team. And this G2 team, looking like championship caliber form, open up on the T half, win the pistol, and win the next 2 rounds and close out before Faze can even do anything on their CT side. I was shocked, truly shocked how fast this game ended. It felt like one of the fastest best of 3s I've watched in a long time, and one of the fastest individual maps in a series for sure I've watched in a long time. I've seen 13-0s that were slower than this. And leading the way to shut Faze out of the tournament, m0NESY, Nico, 18 kills each, both over a 2.0 rating, both over 110 ADR. Nico, 122 ADR with a plus 14 kill differential as the in-game leader. This was vintage Nico. This was classic Nico. And on top of it, he outcalled his former in-game leader and arguably the best in-game leader to ever play any version of Counter-Strike. I can't stress that enough how legit that is. At this point, all bets are off. All analysis from this point on doesn't matter. Everything we know about G2 prior to this tournament does not matter. What matters right now is their form in this tournament, and right now, this G2 team at Dallas looks like the only other team than Spirit that's playing at a true world-class level. And keep in mind, they started off bad in the group stages, but they flipped a switch in that best of 3 against Mouse and have not looked back. And in the context of what they're doing in this tournament, I can't help but predict that G2 are going to wake up tomorrow, walk up to 9Z, who are this unproven team of South American talent that we don't know about, playing in their first major LAN tournament of this caliber, and they're going to walk up to them and shut them out too. I think G2 for sure make the finals off the back of this. If 9Z beat G2 tomorrow, it would legitimately surprise me. On the other side, I think we have potentially one of the best matches of the year lined up between Team Spirit and Vitality. If we get Vitality firing on all cylinders and Team Spirit maintain their form from the group stage, I think we're going to have one of the most entertaining shootouts in Counter-Strike 2 that we've seen so far. Just the prospect of Donk and Shiro going blow for blow with Zywoo and Spinks makes me salivate. That will be amazing Counter-Strike if both teams deliver. And if I had to take a guess, I do think Team Spirit will prevail as the better overall team. I would take this being a Team Spirit G2 final by the time we are doing this recap tomorrow, or so help me God, I don't know, I will just eat my shirt, and I don't want to do that. I really like my shirt. Alright, that was a recap that I had to make, and somehow, despite it being the shortest recap so far this week, I somehow feel the most exhausted by it, because truly I cannot believe the games we got to watch today. Let me know how you guys feel in the comments down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Shout out to my channel members, Furley, Justin, Jesse, and Bubblesj. Thank you guys so much for helping keep the lights on. If you want to become a channel member, check the links down below. Support me directly. It means a huge difference to me. Other than that, GStew forever.